I'm committed to raising city kids for the arts, diversity, and vibrant pace of city life. My two are 13 and 15 now, and they're thriving on their urban upbringing. They're confident, streetwise, and embrace multiculturalism. There was a bloody, violent time, though, when I seriously reconsidered our life plans. It began with the shooting on the sidewalk right in front of my children when they were just 5 and 7. It was early on the evening of July 4th, 2008, and loads of children were out in the neighborhood setting off firecrackers. So I thought nothing of the series of pops I heard in rapid succession as I stood on the front porch with my kids. Then I saw the teen on a bike lose control, swerve, and hit the ground in a puddle of blood right in front of us. He'd been shot in a drive-by. Yellow crime scene tape cordoned off a triangle from my porch to my front trees, and detectives came and questioned us. It was a leg wound, nothing serious, except it was serious to me. It didn't matter that the victim was a known gangbanger. This hit way too close to home. That summer, I stopped letting my littles do chalk drawings on the sidewalk with the neighbor kids, and the scooters stayed in the garage. I was angry about our loss of neighborhood freedom, but I thought it was over, an isolated incident. I just wanted to keep my kids out of harm's way and wait a few months to be sure. Then came fall. My husband was called away on a 3-month shoot out west for National Geographic, and I was home alone with the kids when the gunfire began in earnest. It turns out a high-ranking gang member moved into the apartment next door, effectively turning our quiet little hood into a full-on war zone. I'd never called 911 in my life, but suddenly gunfire was a nightly occurrence. Bullets hit the neighbor's house on both sides of our single-family home, and the crime scene tape went back up across my front yard as the detectives combed my place for casings and clues. Night after night, I tucked my kids in bed, worrying and wondering if a stray bullet was going to come through the walls and kill them in their sleep. I'd lie awake, stressing and listening for the telltale pops. Once, after a volley of 7 close shots, I got out of bed and called 911. My 2 dogs began barking urgently, and out the window I saw a shadowy figure vault my back gate and hide near the kids' treehouse. By the time the cadre of cops trampled through my backyard, checking the shed and shadowy corners, the perp was long gone. My husband and I were both products of the suburbs who embraced the city with open arms as soon as we were old enough. By the time we had kids, we had lived in and loved Chicago in all its gritty glory for over a decade. Sure, we knew about city violence in a theoretical way, but this was way too close for comfort. In a perverse way, I didn't want to leave. We love our 100-year-old home and corner of the city. Yet it's a mother's instinct to protect her children. I would have broken the lease and moved my kids to safety if we'd been renters. But where and what is safety? We bought our home 6 years before, and our block had always been uneventful and safe, until it wasn't. Just thinking about moving, I felt white middle-class guilt for all the women who don't have the means to get their kids out of the line of fire. I've always been an advocate for gun control and social justice, but I'd never known that scary, real, visceral fear for my kids' lives on a nightly basis. It was messing with my head. I couldn't sleep. I could barely eat. But the worst part was the silence. I didn't tell my husband about the near nightly gunfire because he was half a continent away working near the Grand Canyon, and I didn't want to burden him with the helplessness and fear I was plagued with when he couldn't do a thing. I couldn't confide in our suburban families, who already thought we were half crazy for raising city kids, and most of all, I couldn't tell the kids. I put on a happy face when they were awake to preserve their childhood innocence and illusions of safety. Then when they were at school or asleep, I fell apart. Night after night, this went on for nearly 3 months. Local teens started standing guard as armed foot soldiers for the thug next door, a sinister-looking guy with a teardrop tattoo who'd just gotten out of prison. He was a horrible human who shot my dog in the leg with a BB gun while teaching the neighbor kids how to aim. She survived but was skittish and wouldn't go out if he was in the yard next door. I overheard him saying, "Damn dog, next time I'll aim higher." I couldn't really prove a thing. I'd often come home to find my front porch filled with gangbangers, throwing beer cans all over the yard. One night they were on the porch next door, and 2 of them got shot in another drive-by. The yellow crime scene tape bedecked my front yard yet again. The final straw was one gunfire-filled night when I heard loud yelling and crying. I went to the front window in time to see a man stagger across the street with his hands and arms drenched in blood. He started pounding on Teardrop Tattoo's front door, loudly keening and moaning over and over again. "They killed my brother. They killed my brother. They killed my brother," as if in shock. Finally, the guy opened the door and hissed, "Get out of here. You know better than to bring this to my door. Go away." Yet they didn't hesitate to bring the violence and chaos to my door. After that night, the city agreed to install security cameras on our block. But before they materialized, Teardrop and his family had been evicted, stealing everything that wasn't bolted down. And we went back to being a quiet block in one of the bloodiest cities in the country. I'll leave you with a sobering stat to think about. The Tribune says in 2015, there were 2,986 people shot in Chicago. For all the mothers in the hood, I speak for peace.